Dr. Sarah Otefi, a member of the Egyptians Abroad for Democracy, a member of the July 3rd anti-coup movement, but from an American, from the city of Chicago, a financial consultant, and I'm happy to have her perspective on these events. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for coming here for our event. First of all, I want to say thank you to Joe and to the media for coming here. Thank you so much for helping us and supporting us here. Just over a year ago, Egyptians threw off the shackles of the military dictatorship and took in the middle of the civil democracy, becoming for a short period the worshiper of liberty and equality throughout the Arab world. And in June 24th, 2012, Dr. Muhammad Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood, Freedom and Justice Party won the country the first election. It was the first time the Egyptian president has been fully elected from outside the military establishment. And that's for that day. I was so proud to say I'm Egyptian original. I born in Egypt, I grew up in here, but I'm so proud to be Egyptian for that day. By July 3rd, 2013, President Morsi had been kidnapped and ousted in a military coup. The uprising against the previous Mubarak regime resulted in the free and fair election for President Morsi, a new dawn of democracy and the human right in Egypt and for the Egyptian too. The current situation has seen the rapid destruction of that new promise and an excuse for the military to regain a control. Everyone in Egypt, and I think everyone in America too, should be concerned about the legality and the consequence of the military overturning. It is first democratically elected government. Whatever is stated justification, disenchantment with democratically elected leaders cannot legitimize the use of force and should never be used to remove democratically elected governments and elected free presidents. We can see where Egypt has descended to the aftermath of the coup. The new military installed regime does not appear to be interested in safeguarding Egyptian democracy. The hallmark of democratic state had vanished almost immediately. Morsi and his administration, and we see Sister Sarah and her husband, had been kidnapped and detained in secret location by the military. Suddenly, historic criminal charges have surfaced and been leveled against them. So far, these detainees have not had access to their family for a long period of time, or legal teams. How they are being treated, is anyone guess? I think now you know after Sister Sarah, she talked about her husband's situation. Many of Morsi's supporters have gathered in various parts of the country in order peacefully protest against the military intervention. As tension escalated, the military response to the civilian protests in an all too unpredicted manner. On July 8, 51 people were killed when lethal force was used on the protesters gathered outside the officer club, believed to be where Dr. Morsi was detained. This level of violence occurred again in July 27, when 74 people were reported by the Human Rights Watch to have been killed, many shot in the head and the chest. By July 31st, Amnesty International was reported that the Egyptian military cabinet had declared in televised statement that pro-Morsi said in the Greater Cairo were to be considered threatening to national security. I want to say, excuse me, what kind of threat in here? People in the street peacefully protest. When you look at the United Nations and we look at all the government around the world, argued the Egyptian military coup to show restraint, but they did not listen. And everybody know what happened in Rabat Square, in Nahda, and Ramses, and everywhere in Egypt. About 5,000 people being killed, and some burned alive. New Holocaust in Egypt. For me, I remember what Holocaust was in Germany. Now it's another Holocaust in Egypt. 5,000 people killed and burned alive. There are worldwide concern about the escalation of violence. Within this increased violence and risk in the world, it is time for the international community to take a good, long, hard look at itself. The mechanism of redress need to be strengthened, as there are certainly many difficulties to obtain redress for the victim of atrocities. traditional human rights mechanisms such as the United Nations, Special Reporter in the Right to Freedom, Peaceful Assembly, and all the associations. Democratic nations should recognize the great promise shown in the week of the Arab Spring in Egypt. The fleeting democracy that in Egypt should not be allowed to escalate to another Syria or fall into a cycle of a coup after a coup like Pakistan. The free world should raise to its responsibilities and take a global leadership role in this issue. While the rest of the international community pointed to the best word to use when describing the coup and how they should react to it, there are already preparations being made by others to ensure that those responsible for atrocity against the Egyptian civilian can be brought to justice. Persecuting military leaders using the principle of universal jurisdiction can be difficult, but let be warning to the military leadership in Egypt. Let be warning to the Mr. Sisi. For me, he's a killer, and I wanted him to be brought in justice. It is the time for the free world to lead the way, bringing this to end. This situation in Egypt must be referred to the CICC by the Security Council, filing that human rights lawyer now will be waiting in a court across the world for Egyptian military coup leaders with evidence that they have committed heinous international crime. Thank you for coming and supporting us.